Welcome back to Paint It Kids. This is Jessica. Now today we're going to learn how to draw and paint our polar bear and penguin. We're going to learn how to paint snow to look like snow. And we're also going to learn how to paint a starry night scene. I'm going to be using a 12 by 12 canvas for this painting, acrylic paint. And then we're also going to be using brushes. You'll need a paper towel and a water cup. If you don't have paint or canvas available, then just go ahead and grab a piece of paper, pencils, markers, whatever you want to use. All right, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to draw is going to be our bear's snout, and we're just going to be doing a circular shape, and I'm putting it towards the center of my canvas just so we have enough room for our polar bear's body, and then also enough room for our penguin next to our polar bear. And now I'm going to start drawing his cheeks, and I'm just doing a little curved line on either side of the snout. And then once I have both of those down, I'm just going to swoop around and do almost an oval shape. If you were to take the snout out, the shape would kind of look like a kidney bean. And then for his ears, it's really simple, just 2 half circles. And now I'm going to do a nice little curve and then a Y, and that'll be the center of his legs. The little curve on the neck there is just the extra fat that bears have on their neck. And now I'm going to do his backside, and I'm going to take it down, and then I'm going to curve it down almost like a sideways hook. And that'll be his back. And now I'm going to create his one of his front legs. And I like to think of it almost like the shape of a stocking, like a Christmas stocking. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to make the second one, but I'm going to tuck it kind of behind my first one, so you're not gonna see the whole back side of that leg. Then now I'm gonna do his stomach, and I just do a nice curve, almost like a rope bridge kind of look. And then I'm gonna make another stocking shape, but I'm gonna have it kind of slanted out a little bit, almost like my polar bear is taking a step. And then for his back leg, I'm just going to do a short stocking shape because you only see his foot. And then a nice oval for his tail, and then 2 circles for his eyes. And then I'm going to do his nose, and his nose is just going to be a triangle shape. And then for his smile, we do 2 little curved lines there. And now I'm going to put his toes on, and I just do 3 curved lines. And now I'm going to be doing my penguin, and I'm going to put his head just about halfway between the bear's head and the bear's neck. And I'm just doing a circle for my penguin's head, and then for the body you're going to do almost like a squash shape or a curved bell shape here. And then next, after I do the penguin's body, I'm going to be doing the flipper. And the first flipper is going to just barely be peeking out from behind the polar bear, so I just do 2 slightly curved lines. But for the other flipper, I just do it like almost a curved V shape. For his feet, I just bring it out and do 1, 2, 3 and bring it back in. And for the very top of my penguin's head, we're just going to start at the middle, curve out, and then go to the other side and do the same thing. And then 2 circles for his eyes and an upside triangle for his beak. And then I'm going to put a nice oval on his stomach, and that's where he's going to be white. And now I'm just putting in my background where they're standing on snow, or they could even be standing on an iceberg. And now I'm going to draw a couple circles, and I'm just doing 1 circle and then a bigger circle on the outside. And this is the start of our starry night scene. And then I'm going to do a moon shape and surround that by a circle as well. And you can put as many of these as you want in your sky. There's no right or wrong number. And so just put as many stars as you would like. And now that we have our background all sketched in pencil, we're going to start with the Sharpie. And the reason I Sharpie over my image is just because when I paint, it's very easy to lose pencil lines underneath your paint. So we just Sharpie it so that way it's a little bit easier to see. Now that I'm finishing up my Sharpie, we're going to move on to the paint. And the paint I'm going to use is red, yellow, blue, and white, and black. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint my sky straight out of the tube blue. And I'm going to go completely around the circles that I put around my stars and my moon. And the reason I'm doing this is because if I were to fill those in with blue and then just paint over them with yellow, the color would still come out kind of green rather than a yellow color, and we really want that yellow to just really pop on top of our blue. So we're just going to paint around that, and we're going to fill in our sky. And now that we're finishing up our sky, our next step is going to be painting our snow. And we're not just going to paint our snow white, we actually want this to have a little bit more depth to it. So the first thing what we're going to do is we're going to be mixing some white and blue together to make a light blue. Now we don't want it to be like a sky blue, we want it to be a nice in between from the blue we just put on our canvas and sky blue. And what we're going to do is we're going to be painting wet on wet. And this is a technique where you take your paint and while it's still wet, you're blending on your canvas. So we're going to start with this color, and then we're just going to be layering more colors on top of it essentially. So you're just going to go ahead and fill in all of the snowbank with this light blue. And now that we're done with our snowbank, what you're going to do next is you're going to pick up the white in the center of your palette, and you're just going to move it back and forth, just like how I did here. Just back and forth, and put as much white as you want. And then once you're done with that, you're going to create a shadow under your polar bear and penguin. And how we do this is you just grab the blue that you used first, and you're going to place it under your polar bear and under your penguin. And then you're going to mix an even lighter blue, so add white to your blue that you already made, and you're going to put it kind of around your polar bear and penguin, around the edges. And then you're going to pick up some blue straight out of the tube, and you're just going to place it a little bit more under your penguin and under your polar bear's feet. And this is going to give the illusion of a shadow. And once you're happy with your shadow, go ahead and grab some more white and layer it on top. Our paint is dried a little bit now, so now the white will stand out some more and it won't actually blend so much with our blue color. And that makes it look even more like snow. And now I'm going to paint my polar bear, so I'm going to put some more white into my blue. And I'm going to make it a super light blue, a little bit lighter than sky blue. And I'm going to paint my whole polar bear with this color. And once you've done your entire polar bear with this lighter color, we're going to start giving our polar bear some depth. And just like how we did with the ground, we're going to add some shadow to our polar bear. And we're going to use the same colors that we have already mixed. So I'm going to pick up the blue that we used for the snow, and I'm just mixing a little bit more white in it, so it's just a tiny bit lighter. And I'm going to put that under the polar bear's neck, its back leg, on the inside of the front back leg, and then on the inside of the front two legs. And I'm going to grab straight white and put that towards the top. And what this is doing is I'm getting a range of light, mediums, and darks on our polar bear. But I don't want to go too dark, because if we go too dark with our blue, then it'll start blending into our ground and then also our sky. And I'm going to go ahead and put these lighter colors on my penguin's face and belly, because those parts of the penguin are white. Now, if you're finding your polar bear is becoming too dark, just add more white and just keep layering. And now I'm going to start on the stars and the moon, and I'm just mixing a little bit of white with my yellow, just because yellow's so see-through, and when you add white to it, it just makes it a little bit thicker and a little bit smoother. And I'm just going to do the outside ring of my star and my moon. Now, it's okay if you overlap into your inner circle or your moon, because we're just going to be putting orange on top of it, and with orange it's a warm color, so it's not going to look weird when we layer on top like it would with the blue. Now that I'm finished with my sky, the next step is going to be painting my penguin, and I'm just going to be using black straight out of the tube. Now, you want to be careful with black, and especially when you're done with your penguin, you want to make sure that you rinse your brush out really well. The thing about black is that if a little gets into your other colors, it's going to mute it very, very quickly. It's a pretty dominant color, and it'll muddy your colors. So as soon as you're done with your actual penguin, I'm just going to go ahead and paint my penguin's eyes, my polar bear's eyes, and also my polar bear's nose. And once I'm completely done with my bear's nose, I'm going to make sure that I really rinse out my brush, because we don't want any of that black to get into our next color. And we're going to be using orange for the inside of our moon and our stars. And that's just red and yellow, more yellow than red. And we're going to paint the inside of the moon and inside of the stars. And since I still have this orange on my brush, I'm just gonna go ahead and color in my penguin's beak and my penguin's feet. Next, I am going to do the inside of my polar bear's ears, and so I'm just making a pink for that. So that's just going to be red and white, and you could do as light or dark as pink as you want. I put my first pink down and realized I didn't quite like how light that was, and then I'm just gonna give my penguin some rosy cheeks. Now comes the fun part, and this is the part that really brings our character to life. And I'm picking up that yellow that I had used on my stars, and I'm going to highlight my characters with this yellow. So around the ears, around the face, on top of the nose, on the back. And I'm just putting a couple lines, I'm not overdoing it, just because they're supposed to be just little highlights, little details, and I'm putting some on the ground too. I usually use white when I do this in my paintings, but this time I'm using yellow because in my mind the moon and the stars are letting off this really pretty yellow light. And now I'm done with highlighting my characters, so now I'm going to put little curved dashes around my star and my moon. And I usually do one row of these dashes, and then I do another row on the outside, and this gives it off as like the stars and the moon are radiating light. And I'm just gonna do this around each of my stars a couple times, and it doesn't really matter how many you do, you can do as many as you would like, but you want to make sure that your dashes do look separate, because if you do too many too close together, then it's just gonna look like one line. And then once you're done with your yellow, you're just gonna go ahead and do it with white as well. And the reason we do this is because it gives us some kind of depth, but also if you ever go back and look at Van Gogh's Starry Night paintings, and you'll notice that he uses a variety of yellows and whites, but for ours, we're just gonna use the yellow from our stars and then just white. Now that I'm done with all the dashes around my stars, what I'm gonna do is there's a couple little blank spaces where I didn't have any dashes, and so I'm just gonna use the wrong side of my brush and just put a couple little dots here and there. I usually like to do 3 or 4, nothing too crazy, and just fill in those blank spaces. And then once I'm done with my little dots, I'm gonna give it a little time to dry, and then I'm gonna go over with Sharpie. Now if you wanna use black paint, you can use black paint. If you're still not quite confident with a paintbrush yet, then just go ahead and use the Sharpie, but you just need to make sure that your paint is completely dry because your paint will ruin your Sharpie. And I'm just going to outline my characters. And usually I like to outline my background as well, but this time I just wanna do my characters because I really like how my background and my snow look as is. There you go, you guys have completed your Starry Night polar bear and penguin. If you like what you saw, then go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. And please leave your comments below. Let us know what else you would like to see. You know, this channel is for you. So we would love to hear your suggestions, and we'll see you guys next time.